Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to the story. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to the story. Clara stood there, caught between disbelief and wonder, her heart racing. She had never expected this. Never imagined the man she had painted, the mysterious figure from her letters, would be standing in front of her, smiling. Liam Parker, the man who had commissioned the portrait, was real. And yet, there was something about him that felt so familiar, as if she had known him all her life. He wasn't just a stranger anymore. He was someone who had entered her world, and she couldn't help but feel a sense of connection. I'm glad you like it, Clara stammered, trying to steady her breath. But I never expected you to be here, let alone see the painting in person. Liam chuckled softly, his eyes sparkling with warmth. I couldn't stay away. I had to meet the woman who brought this image to life. And I have to say, Clara, you've done more than just paint my face. You've captured something I didn't even know I was missing. Her pulse quickened as she met his gaze. There was something about the way he spoke, the way he looked at her, that made her feel like he wasn't just talking about the portrait. It was as if he was talking about her, about the connection they shared, even if they hadn't known each other long. Clara shifted uncomfortably, her hands fidgeting with the hem of her dress. She felt a wave of self-consciousness wash over her. This wasn't just any client. This was someone she had unknowingly connected with through her art. Her thoughts raced, but she kept her focus on him. I never thought a painting could create such a bond, Clara said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam's expression softened, and he took a step closer, his presence filling the space between them. It's more than a bond, he said, his voice low. It's a connection. One that started when I first saw your work. I've been following your art for months, Clara. I knew from the moment I saw your paintings that there was something special about you. Clara felt her cheeks flush. This was more than she had ever expected. Not only had he been following her work, but he had also seen something in her, something she hadn't even seen in herself. For a moment, she felt both flattered and overwhelmed by the attention. I don't know what to say, Clara admitted, her voice shaky. I've just been trying to make ends meet. I never thought my work would lead to something like this. Liam smiled, a hint of admiration in his eyes. You've done more than make ends meet, Clara. You've created something that speaks to people. And now, I want to help you reach the people who need to see it. Clara looked at him, confused. What do you mean? Liam leaned in slightly, his voice lowering to a confidential tone. I'm in a position to offer you an opportunity. I know this might sound sudden, but I believe in your talent. I want to bring your art to a larger audience. I want to help you create your own gallery, one that showcases your work to the world. Clara blinked, unsure if she had heard him correctly. A gallery, she asked, her voice a mix of disbelief and excitement. But I'm just a small-town artist. How could I? Liam raised his hand, cutting her off gently. You're more than just a small-town artist. You have the talent, the passion. I see it in your eyes. This painting, it's proof of that. So what do you say? Let me help you bring your dream to life. Clara's heart thudded in her chest. This was the opportunity she had always dreamed of. But doubt crept in, her insecurities whispering in the back of her mind. She had never been given a chance like this. Could she really do it? I don't know, she said softly, the words slipping out before she could stop them. I'm not sure if I'm ready. Liam smiled again, this time with a reassuring look in his eyes. You don't have to be ready right now, but you've got the talent, Clara. That's all you need. And I'll be here to guide you through it. Clara hesitated for a moment, the weight of his words sinking in. She had dreamed of having her own gallery, of being recognized for her art. But the fear of failure, the uncertainty, held her back. Could she really take the leap? I don't know, she repeated, her voice quieter now. I've always been afraid of failing. Liam's expression softened, and he took a step closer, closing the distance between them. We all fear failure, Clara. But if you never try, you'll never know what you're capable of. Let me help you take that first step. Trust me, it'll be worth it. Clara stood there, staring at him, torn between her dreams and her doubts. Could she really trust him? Could she trust herself? For the first time in a long while, she felt the pull of something greater than her fears, something that might change her life forever. As Liam looked at her, Clara could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on her. She could stay where it was safe, or she could take a leap of faith into the unknown. And with that thought, something inside her shifted. Maybe it was time to take that chance. Okay, Clara said, her voice barely audible. I'll do it. I'll trust you. Liam's smile widened, and for the first time, Clara saw a glimmer of hope in his eyes. This was just the beginning, and for the first time in her life, she felt like she was ready to take the step that would change everything. Clara's heart was racing as she left the gallery that night, the weight of Liam's offer heavy on her shoulders. The drive home felt surreal, the streets blurring past her as she replayed their conversation over and over in her mind. Let me help you take that first step, Liam had said, and she had agreed. But now, as the reality of her decision settled in, the fear she had pushed aside began to creep back. Was she really ready for this? Could she truly make her dreams a reality? Or had she just taken a leap into the unknown without looking? Clara walked into her small apartment, the dim light of the kitchen casting long shadows on the walls. The familiar smell of paint and canvas greeted her, the scent of her dreams. But now, those dreams seemed more daunting than ever. She had always imagined what it would be like to have a gallery, to have people admire her work, but she never imagined it would happen this way. With Liam, a man she had only known through his letters, and now, through this unexpected connection. She set her keys down on the counter and collapsed into the worn chair by the window, her mind swirling. She didn't have the luxury of overthinking. She had already made her choice. But now, she had to figure out how to make it work. She wasn't sure if she was ready, but the opportunity was too big to ignore. And Liam, with all his confidence, seemed so sure that she could do it. Could she live up to his belief in her? Could she take this chance and transform her life? Or would it all fall apart? The sound of her phone vibrating broke the silence, and Clara picked it up, her fingers trembling. It was a message from Liam. Her heart skipped a beat as she opened it. Clara, I know you're probably still processing everything, but I wanted to let you know that I'm here if you have any questions or doubts. I believe in you, and I know this could be the start of something great. Let's talk tomorrow about the next steps. I'll be waiting to hear from you. Clara stared at the message, her mind racing again. His words were comforting, but they also made her feel like she was about to step into something far bigger than she had ever imagined. She didn't know if she was ready, but a small part of her felt a spark of hope. She had always wanted to make it, to prove to herself and to the world that she was more than just a small-town artist. The next morning, Clara woke up with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. She had a meeting with Liam to discuss the gallery. As she walked to the bus stop, she couldn't help but notice how different the world seemed. The sun felt warmer, the air fresher, and even the city noises seemed to fade into the background as she focused on the path ahead. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long while, she felt like she was on the right path. When Clara arrived at Liam's office, she was greeted by his assistant and led into a sleek, modern conference room. The space was nothing like her small apartment or the humble galleries she had worked in before. It was filled with glass, steel, and sunlight. It was everything she had ever dreamed of, except it didn't feel like her world. Yet, Liam stood by the window, looking out over the city. He turned as Clara entered, and his smile was warm, reassuring. "Glad you made it," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. "I know this is a big step, but I believe you're ready for it." Clara sat down, her hands shaking slightly as she adjusted her skirt. I don't know what to say. This all feels so fast." Liam nodded, his expression understanding. "I know it's a lot, but you've already done the hardest part. You've created something real. Now, let's take it to the next level." He slid a few papers across the table to her, and Clara looked down at the contracts. The words were all business, terms, conditions, and a plan to turn her work into a full-fledged gallery exhibition. Her stomach twisted as she read through the details. It was real. This was happening. "I've been where you are," Liam continued, his voice steady. "The fear, the doubt, it's all part of the process. But it's the only way to grow. If you stay where it's safe, you'll never reach your potential. You have the talent, Clara. I'm just here to help you push through the fear. Clara took a deep breath, her mind swirling with everything Liam had said. He was right. This was her chance. She had always dreamed of seeing her work on display for the world to see. But could she really take that leap? Could she trust herself? Okay, she said quietly, her voice barely a whisper. I'm ready. Liam smiled, a genuine warmth in his eyes. Good. Let's get started then. As Clara looked at the contract in front of her, she realized that this was just the beginning. The beginning of something she had always wanted but never thought she could have. With Liam's help, she was about to step into a new world, one that she had only dreamed of. And for the first time in her life, Clara felt a surge of excitement, knowing that no matter how hard it would be, this was her chance to create something extraordinary. Clara walked into the sleek, modern office the following week, her heart pounding in her chest. She had signed the contract, agreeing to work with Liam to bring her art to the next level. But now, as she stood in the high-rise building, the reality of what she had committed to began to sink in. This was not the small-town world she had known. The world outside the window stretched far and wide, and Clara couldn't help but feel both excited and overwhelmed. She had always dreamed of being here, but now that she was, it felt a little bit out of her league. Are you ready? Liam's voice broke through her thoughts, and she turned to find him standing behind her, smiling reassuringly. He had always seemed confident, but today, there was something else in his eyes, a sense of purpose, a trust in her that Clara hadn't felt before. His presence grounded her, made her believe that maybe, just maybe, she could do this. Clara nodded slowly, feeling a mix of nervousness and determination. I think so, she said, her voice barely a whisper. The thought of her upcoming gallery opening, the exhibition she had worked for years to achieve, felt both thrilling and terrifying. What if people didn't like her art? What if the whole thing was a mistake? But then again, what if this was the opportunity she had been waiting for her entire life? Liam motioned for her to follow him into the conference room. Let's go over the details, he said. Clara followed him, her thoughts swirling. The table was covered in sketches, plans for the exhibit, and notes about potential clients. They had big plans, and Liam was determined to make it all come together. We'll start with a smaller showing, Liam explained as he sat down, gesturing for Clara to take a seat. We want to ease people into your work. It's all about building anticipation, but we'll make sure it's big enough to get people talking. This is about creating a buzz. Clara listened intently, her hands nervously resting in her lap. What do you mean by building anticipation? She asked, unsure of what he meant. Liam smiled. We'll introduce your work to the public gradually. Maybe a few pieces in private collections first. Then, we'll have a more public reveal at a high-end event. The idea is to create mystery, to make people eager to see more. People love the unknown. It makes them curious. Clara nodded, trying to wrap her head around the strategy. She had always been someone who worked quietly, letting her art speak for itself. But now, with Liam's guidance, she was being pushed out of her comfort zone. She would need to speak to clients, attend events, be part of a world that was completely new to her. I know this is a lot to take in, Liam continued, his tone gentle but firm. But remember, you have the talent. This isn't about changing who you are. It's about showing the world what you can do. You're ready for this, Clara. Clara took a deep breath, trying to calm the whirlwind of emotions inside her. He believed in her, and maybe that was enough for now. She could do this. She had to. As they went over the rest of the plans, Clara felt a small spark of hope ignite within her. She had dreamed of this moment for so long, but she had never imagined it would come this way. With Liam's help, maybe she could truly make a name for herself. The thought was both exciting and terrifying, but she knew one thing for sure. There was no turning back now. The next few days flew by in a blur of meetings, phone calls, and preparation. Clara found herself getting used to the pace, the constant rush of excitement that came with each new step. She began to see the gallery opening taking shape, each piece of the puzzle falling into place. The nerves were still there, of course, but they were no longer as overwhelming. With Liam at her side, guiding her through it all, Clara began to feel like maybe, just maybe, she was ready. Finally, the night of the gallery opening arrived. Clara stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her dress for the 100th time. The room was full of people, art collectors, critics, influencers, all gathered to see her work. It was everything she had dreamed of, yet still, she felt a sense of disbelief. Was she really here? Was this really happening? As Clara stepped into the gallery, the noise of the crowd buzzed in her ears. The walls were lined with her paintings, each piece showcasing the skill and emotion she had poured into her work. She could see the reactions of the people around her, admiration, curiosity, even awe. But despite all the attention, Clara's eyes found Liam almost immediately. He was standing by the main display, watching her with a proud smile. His presence gave her the strength she needed. For the first time that evening, Clara allowed herself to relax. She wasn't just the artist standing in front of her own work. She was a part of this world, a world she had dreamed of but never thought she would be part of. And as the night went on, with people admiring her paintings and asking about her process, Clara realized something important. This was just the beginning. With every smile, every compliment, Clara felt a growing sense of confidence. She was no longer the struggling artist from a small town. She was Clara, the artist with a future ahead of her. And as the night came to a close, with Liam by her side, Clara knew that this moment was a turning point in her life. She had stepped into a new world, and there was no looking back. The following days after the gallery opening were a whirlwind. Clara's phone buzzed non-stop with messages from art critics, collectors, and even a few potential buyers. Her work had caught the attention of people she never thought would notice her. It felt like a dream. Everything she had ever wanted was finally coming true. But as the days passed, the excitement began to settle, and reality hit her. The pressure was mounting. She had to keep up the momentum. She couldn't afford to fail now. She had made it this far, but the road ahead still felt uncertain. One morning, as Clara sat in her small studio, sipping coffee, she stared at the blank canvas in front of her. Her mind was racing with ideas, but nothing seemed good enough. She had pushed herself so hard to get here, but now, sitting alone in the quiet of her apartment, she felt the weight of it all. Was this success really hers to keep, or was she just a momentary figure in a world that could easily forget her? The fear of failing, of falling short of everyone's expectations, crept into her mind again. She hadn't had time to fully process the magnitude of what had happened. What if she couldn't do it again? What if the next piece didn't live up to the hype? Just as she was about to put her brush down in frustration, there was a knock at the door. Clara sighed, wiped her hands on a rag, and went to answer it. To her surprise, standing on the other side was Liam, looking as confident and composed as ever. "Hey, Clara," he greeted with a smile, stepping inside without waiting for her to invite him in. "I thought I'd check in on you. How's it going?" Clara hesitated, her gaze drifting to the half-finished painting on the easel. "I don't know," she admitted, her voice quieter than she intended. "I thought this would feel different. Now that it's real, I feel like I'm not sure I can keep up with it all. I don't want to let anyone down." Liam studied her for a moment, then walked over to the painting. He tilted his head, admiring the colors and composition. "You're doing fine, Clara. You've come so far already. I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe in your work. But I can see what's happening. You're afraid of losing it all, aren't you?" Clara looked at him, startled by how well he understood. "Yeah," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm afraid that I won't be able to keep the momentum going. What if I can't live up to the last piece? What if this is just a fluke?" Liam smiled softly, his tone more gentle than Clara had ever heard before. "Success is not about being perfect every time. It's about the journey, the passion behind what you do. The world doesn't expect you to keep making masterpieces right away, but they do expect you to stay true to who you are as an artist. And you've already shown that. That's why people connect with your work." Clara swallowed hard, trying to push back the wave of doubt that was threatening to overwhelm her. She had always been her own biggest critic. But Liam's words, as simple as they were, began to sink in. She had come this far because of who she was, not because of some formula for success, but because she had something to say with her art. That was what had brought people to her work in the first place. "I'm just so scared of failing," Clara admitted, her voice breaking slightly. "What if it's not enough? What if they forget me?" Liam stepped closer, his eyes soft, but unwavering. "You won't be forgotten, Clara. Not if you keep doing what you're doing. You've already touched people with your art, and that's more than most artists ever get. It's not about the next piece being perfect. It's about staying true to yourself. Don't let fear dictate your next step." Clara took a deep breath, feeling a sense of relief wash over her. She had been so focused on the pressure of success that she had forgotten why she started painting in the first place. To express herself, to create something meaningful, to make an impact. It wasn't about perfection. It was about authenticity. "You're right," Clara said, her voice steadier now. "I've been so focused on the outcome that I forgot about the process. I just need to keep creating, keep being true to my vision. The rest will follow." Liam nodded, a proud smile crossing his face. "Exactly. And remember, I'm here to help you. You don't have to do it alone. I believe in you, Clara. Always have." As Liam left her studio, Clara felt a renewed sense of purpose. The fear was still there, lurking in the background, but it no longer controlled her. She could feel the weight of her dreams on her shoulders, but now, it felt lighter, more manageable. She was ready to take the next step, not because she was sure of everything, but because she was ready to embrace the journey, with all its challenges and uncertainties. For the first time in a long while, Clara allowed herself to smile. She didn't have all the answers, but she knew one thing for certain: she was not alone. And with that thought, she picked up her brush once more, ready to create, ready to face whatever came next. Clara stood in front of her easel, the brush in her hand trembling slightly as she added the final touches to the new piece she had been working on for days. The doubts that had plagued her in the past few weeks were still there, lingering at the back of her mind. But this time, she didn't let them take over. Liam's words echoed in her head. It's not about being perfect every time. It's about staying true to yourself. And for the first time in a long time, Clara felt like she was doing just that. This painting, unlike the others, was entirely hers, raw, vulnerable, and honest. There was no pressure to live up to anyone's expectations, no need to replicate the success of the gallery opening. This was just about her and the art. As she stepped back to admire the finished piece, Clara felt a small sense of pride. She had learned so much over the past few weeks, not just about painting, but about herself. She was no longer the unsure artist who had walked into Liam's office that first day, afraid of failing. She was stronger now, more confident in her ability to create, to express, and to be seen. The fear hadn't disappeared, but it no longer controlled her. Clara had found her rhythm. Later that week, Clara received an invitation from Liam to attend another art event, this time a charity gala where her work would be featured. She had hesitated at first, another large event, another opportunity to be judged. But then she remembered what Liam had said, "You're ready for this. I believe in you." She took a deep breath, threw on her dress, and decided to go. This was part of her journey now. It was time to embrace it fully. As Clara walked into the grand ballroom, the soft hum of conversation and clinking of glasses surrounded her. The room was filled with art collectors, curators, and a few familiar faces from her gallery opening. She felt the usual flutter of nerves, but this time, it was different. She wasn't just another artist in the crowd. She had earned her place here. She had worked hard, and now, her art was being celebrated. Clara smiled to herself, her eyes scanning the room, until they landed on Liam. He was standing at the front, speaking with a few people, but when he saw her, his face lit up. "Clara," Liam called out as he walked toward her, his usual confident smile on his face. "I'm so glad you could make it." "Thank you for inviting me," Clara replied, her voice calm, but a little nervous. She wasn't used to being in the spotlight like this, but she was starting to feel like she belonged. Liam glanced around the room. "You should be proud," he said, his voice sincere. "Your work is making waves. People are talking. Your future as an artist is looking brighter every day." Clara felt a small thrill at his words, but also a quiet humility. She wasn't used to praise, especially not from someone like Liam. He had been there from the start, offering guidance and belief when she wasn't sure she had it in herself. "It's surreal," she admitted. "I never imagined I'd be here, at a gala, with my work on display like this." Liam's expression softened. "I knew you could do it. You just had to believe in yourself. And now look where you are." As the evening went on, Clara mingled with the guests, discussing her art and the inspiration behind her paintings. There was a sense of pride in the way she spoke now, a newfound confidence that had grown over time. She didn't shy away from the conversations anymore. She spoke with passion about her process, about the emotions she poured into each brushstroke, and about the journey that had brought her to this point. As the event came to a close, Liam pulled Clara aside. "I think it's time we talked about the next steps," he said, his tone more serious now. "There's a big opportunity on the horizon, and I think you're ready for it." Clara raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What do you mean?" Liam smiled. "I've been approached by a few high-end art dealers, and they're interested in featuring your work in a much larger exhibition. It's an exclusive opportunity, but I believe you're more than capable of handling it. This is the next level for you, Clara." Clara felt a wave of excitement wash over her, but also a pang of doubt. "I don't know," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "This feels like a big leap. I'm still figuring out who I am as an artist." Liam placed a hand on her shoulder, his expression firm but kind. "You've already proven who you are. You've found your voice. Now it's time to share it with a wider audience. You're ready, Clara. I know you are." Clara stared at him for a moment, unsure, but then something inside her clicked. He was right. She had already come so far, and this was just another step in her journey. This was her chance to push beyond her comfort zone, to see how far her art could take her. "Okay," Clara said, her voice steadier now. "I'm ready. Let's do it." Liam smiled, proud of her. "I knew you'd say that. Let's make it happen." As Clara walked out of the gala that night, she felt a sense of peace settle over her. She didn't know exactly what the future held, but for the first time in a long while, she felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. She had come a long way from the uncertain artist who had first picked up a paintbrush, and now, she was ready to take on the world. Her journey was just beginning. Clara stood in front of her easel, staring at the canvas before her. The glow of the evening sun filtered through the window, casting soft shadows in her studio. She had taken the plunge, she had agreed to the exhibition, and now the preparations were in full swing. But despite all the progress, a nagging feeling lingered in the back of her mind. She had come so far, but now, as the exhibition date approached, the pressure was mounting. The fear of failure, the fear of being judged, had crept back into her thoughts. What if people didn't like her work? What if she wasn't good enough? What if she had made a mistake by taking on such a big opportunity? She tried to push those thoughts aside, but they refused to go away. Clara had always been her own worst critic, and now, with the stakes higher than ever, those doubts were louder than ever. She was afraid to disappoint Liam, who had been there for her from the beginning, believing in her when she couldn't believe in herself. But more than anything, Clara was afraid of letting herself down. Could she truly live up to the expectations? Could she handle the pressure of being a recognized artist? The doorbell rang, breaking her chain of thought. Clara sighed, wiped her hands on her apron, and made her way to the door. When she opened it, there stood Liam, looking as confident and composed as always. He flashed a reassuring smile, but Clara could see the concern in his eyes. "Hey," Liam said, stepping inside. "How are you doing? You look like you've been lost in thought." Clara smiled weakly, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. I don't know. I've been working on a new piece, but I feel like I'm hitting a wall. And with everything else coming up, I'm just feeling a little overwhelmed." She hesitated for a moment before adding, "What if I can't do this? What if the exhibition is a disaster? What if people don't like my work?" Liam's expression softened, and he walked over to the canvas, his eyes scanning the unfinished painting. "Clara," he said gently, "I've seen your work evolve. You've come a long way, and you've earned your place here. I know you're scared. That's normal. But the people who will come to see your work, they're coming for you. They're coming to see the art you've created, the passion behind it. And trust me, that's all anyone really cares about." Clara felt her chest tighten, but she forced herself to listen. "But what if it's not enough? What if I'm not enough?" Liam turned back to face her, his gaze steady and sincere. "You're more than enough, Clara. I've watched you grow, and I've seen the impact your art has on people. You've already touched lives, whether you realize it or not. You're not doing this for anyone else's approval. You're doing this because you have something important to say. Don't let fear hold you back. It's okay to be scared, but don't let that stop you from showing the world who you are." Clara stood there, her heart pounding in her chest. His words were simple, but they resonated with her. She had spent so much time worrying about what could go wrong that she had forgotten why she started this journey in the first place: to express herself, to share her vision with the world. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about being authentic. "You're right," Clara said quietly, the weight of his words slowly sinking in. I've been so focused on the fear that I've forgotten why I'm doing this. I've come this far because I've stayed true to myself. I just need to keep going." She smiled, a small but genuine smile, and for the first time in days, she felt the doubt start to lift. Liam smiled back, his expression filled with pride. "That's the spirit," he said. "You've got this, Clara. I'm with you every step of the way. Let's make this exhibition everything it's meant to be." He gave her a small pat on the back before heading toward the door. As Liam left, Clara stood in the middle of her studio, a sense of clarity washing over her. She was ready to face her fears, ready to embrace the journey ahead. It wasn't about being perfect, it was about being true to herself, and that was more than enough. With a deep breath, she turned back to the canvas, the brush in her hand steady once more. This was just the beginning, and Clara knew she was ready for whatever came next. The night of the exhibition had finally arrived, and Clara stood in front of the grand venue, the bright lights of the city casting a soft glow on her nervous face. Her heart raced in her chest as she looked at the sleek building that now housed her art. Just a few months ago, she had never imagined this day would come, and now that it was here, she felt a mix of excitement and fear. The entire evening was a blur of conversations, new faces, and moments of doubt. But as she stood there, waiting for the event to start, she realized something important. She wasn't just here for validation or approval. She was here because this was her moment, her time to show the world who she was and what she had to offer. Inside, the room was filled with guests, art collectors, critics, and people who had heard of her work through Liam's connections. Clara moved through the crowd, her mind buzzing. There was a voice inside her that kept saying, "Asterisk, what if they don't like it? What if they think I don't belong here?" Asterisk, but each time that voice whispered doubts, she reminded herself of everything she had overcome to get here. She wasn't the same woman who had walked into Liam's office, uncertain of her place in the art world. She was Clara, the artist who had fought to get here. The fear was still there, but it no longer controlled her. As the event began, Clara stood by her paintings, watching as people moved from one piece to the next, whispering to each other, discussing the emotions and stories behind her work. She felt a surge of pride, seeing how her pieces were being admired. For the first time in her life, she felt like she truly belonged. But it wasn't just the admiration of others that gave her a sense of fulfillment. It was the feeling of standing here, owning this moment, and realizing that her art was more than just a way to make a living. It was a way to connect with people, to express parts of herself that she had kept hidden for so long. And then, just as Clara was starting to feel a sense of peace, Liam appeared beside her, looking every bit the polished, confident businessman he was known to be. He gave her a nod of approval, his smile reassuring. "How does it feel?" Liam asked, his voice low as he surveyed the room. Clara turned to him, a small smile on her lips. "It's surreal," she said, her voice filled with a mix of wonder and disbelief. "I never imagined I would be here. I used to dream about this, but now that it's real, I can't quite believe it." She paused, looking at the crowd before turning back to him. "I'm not afraid anymore. I think I've finally realized that I belong here. This is what I've been working for." She smiled again, the nervousness that once gripped her now replaced by something stronger, pride. Liam looked at her with admiration. "I knew you'd get here," he said, his voice filled with genuine warmth. "You've come a long way, Clara, and this is just the beginning." He paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. "I've seen your work evolve, and I know there's so much more to come. This is just the first step in a long and successful career." He placed a hand on her shoulder, giving it a reassuring squeeze. Clara felt a rush of gratitude as she looked at Liam. He had been her mentor, her guide, and now, she could see that he truly believed in her. It was a feeling that filled her with both humility and confidence. She had worked hard to get here, but it was Liam's belief in her that had helped her push through the doubts and fears that once held her back. As the night went on, Clara continued to mingle with the guests, but this time, she didn't feel the weight of her fears. She wasn't seeking approval anymore. She wasn't trying to prove herself. She was simply enjoying the moment, appreciating how far she had come, and realizing that the journey she had taken to get here was more important than any recognition she could receive. For the first time, Clara understood that her success wasn't just about her art. It was about her growth, her courage to face her fears, and her willingness to take chances. By the end of the night, Clara stood by the window, looking out at the city skyline. The event had been a success, and she had made connections that would shape her career. But more than that, she had come to terms with her journey. She was no longer afraid of what the future held. She had taken a leap of faith, and it had paid off. As she turned to leave the gallery, Clara felt a sense of peace, knowing that this was only the beginning of her story. There was still so much to do, so much to learn, but for the first time, she was ready. Ready to take on the world with her art and her heart. Months passed since the gallery opening, and Clara had fully immersed herself in the world she had once only dreamed about. The exhibition was a success, and more opportunities began to open up. Invitations to exclusive art shows, private commissions, and meetings with influential collectors became a regular part of her life. She had come a long way, but despite all the external achievements, Clara knew that the real change had happened within herself. The self-doubt that had once defined her was now replaced with a quiet confidence, the kind that came from knowing who she was and what she was capable of. It was a rainy afternoon when Clara received an unexpected message from Liam. He had been her mentor, her guide through this journey, and now, it seemed, he was offering her one more opportunity. The message read, "Clara, I've been thinking a lot about your work and the direction you're headed. There's an upcoming exhibition that could really launch you into the next level. It's in Paris. I think it's time to take that step. What do you say?" Clara stared at the message, her heart racing. Paris. The city of art, of dreams, of endless possibilities. The thought of showing her work in one of the most famous cities in the world was both exhilarating and terrifying. She had always hoped for this, but the reality of it felt overwhelming. Could she do it? Could she really show her work to a global audience? As she sat in her studio, Clara thought about everything she had been through to get to this point. She remembered the fear that had once paralyzed her, the moments when she had almost given up, thinking she wasn't good enough. But now, looking back, she realized how far she had come. This opportunity was not just a chance to showcase her art. It was a reflection of everything she had worked for, everything she had fought to overcome. With a deep breath, Clara picked up her phone and replied, "Let's do it." The words felt right, like they were coming from a place of certainty rather than fear. She was ready, ready to take on the world, ready to embrace the challenges and the unknown, knowing that no matter what happened, she had already proved something to herself. A few weeks later, Clara found herself standing in front of a crowd of art enthusiasts in Paris. The gallery was unlike anything she had ever seen before. The space was large and modern, with high ceilings and walls filled with her work. As the opening night began, Clara stood at the center of the room, watching people admire her paintings. She was no longer the unsure artist who had walked into Liam's office all those months ago. She was Clara, the artist who had created something meaningful, something that people were connecting with on a deep level. As the night went on, Clara found herself lost in conversation with a well-known art critic who praised her work for its raw emotion and authenticity. The feeling of being understood, of having her work appreciated, was unlike anything she had ever felt. She realized that this was what she had always wanted, not fame or recognition, but the ability to connect with people through her art. At the end of the evening, as the crowd began to thin out, Liam approached her, his face filled with pride. "You did it, Clara," he said, his voice warm. "I knew you were ready for this. This is just the beginning." Clara smiled, her eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you, Liam. I couldn't have done this without you." Liam chuckled, shaking his head. "You did all the work. I just helped you see the potential you always had." As the two of them stood there, amidst the lingering energy of the night, Clara felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had taken a chance, faced her fears, and reached heights she never thought possible. But more importantly, she had found herself along the way. Her art had always been about expressing what was inside her, but now, it had become a bridge to connect with others. She knew that this was just the beginning of something much bigger. Looking out at the city lights of Paris, Clara felt a sense of peace settle in her chest. The journey had been long, but it had led her exactly where she needed to be. And with that thought, Clara took a deep breath, ready for whatever the future held, knowing that she was no longer afraid of the unknown. She had found her place in the world, and now, the world was hers to explore.